Hi, welcome to the very first Speech Sound Saturday. I'm Kidron Ramoser, the current Miss Western Arkansas 2025, and my social media initiative is Speech Sound Saturday, educating people on the effects of communication disorders on the daily lives of people with them. And today I am joined by a very special guest, my first guest on my little show here. I'm joined by my mother, Florina Ramoser, and my youngest brother, Shechem Ramoser, and he is the inspiration for this whole community service initiative. And so I thought, what better way to get this started than by interviewing him, and then of course my mom, who went through so much with him, and she was the reason why he was put into therapy, speech therapy in the first place. So just go ahead and tell us about yourselves.
Okay, so I'm Florina Ramoser, and yeah, obviously I'm Kidman's mom. Besides being a photographer and military wife, we've been going down this speech therapy journey for a long time. When Shechem was about 6 months old, we found out that he had a brain tumor, and it was causing him to have absent seizures. So that resulted in us knowing that eventually we would either have to do like medications long term, or we would have to do brain surgery potentially. But in the beginning, we didn't really know what that would look like for us. And at 6 months old, it was really hard to say what therapies he was going to need. It wasn't until after we actually did do brain surgery at 18 months old. He had ganglioma, I believe is what it was called, in the left temporal lobe of his brain. And yeah, so at 18 months old, I knew right away that we were going to do speech therapy just because I'm a big fan of the therapies, whether it's speech, occupational, physical, because I really believe that it can benefit you. It cannot harm you.
Mm-hmm.
My thought process has always been that if you need therapy and you get it, that's great. But if you need therapy and you don't get it, it's super detrimental to your life. And I had seen other people who had been affected by that they really did need therapy and that they didn't get it. And so, like Shechem, I just wanted to, kind of do preventative measures right from the get-go. But as it turned out after his brain surgery, it was pretty apparent that he did need speech therapy. So, yeah, and that's kind of where our journey began with you.
Yes, that's awesome. And he had all kinds of other therapies. So it wasn't just speech therapy to get him where he needed to be developmentally. And I just was able to go in and watch him do his therapies and see the therapists work with him. And something about the speech aspect really stood out to me. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my career, and that spurred me on to this community service initiative, Voices of Change, and really being that change for people who have non-typical speech or understanding of language. So Shechem, tell us about yourself. What grade are you in?
I'm in fifth grade, and I go to a Shallow Christian school, and I had brain surgery at 18 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's good. That's great. Okay. And what kinds of therapy has Shechem received over the course of his life?
Shek, do you know what kind of therapies you've gotten so far?
I know two.
Okay, what are the two you know?
I know I have done speech therapy and occupational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What
And,
kinds of things has he done in speech therapy?
well, for speech, in the beginning, we did some pronunciation of words, or I guess it's called articulation. It was mostly S's, X's, and actually, we had to work. He was very, very low tone because of the medications he was on. So low tone is like, the muscle tissue is not very strong, and that includes your mouth. So we had to like teach him how to eat. We did like strengthen exercises like that. Is like rubbery triangle. You chomp, chomp, chomp on it to strengthen his jaw muscles and stuff. And when he would talk, we'd always have to remind him to like swallow, swallow, because he would that'd be work for him. And so one of the things we worked on is actually like jaw strength, in addition to like his tongue strength and tongue positioning. And it was not terrible, to be quite honest with you. Maybe because you hear him speaking just fine today. But I think because we were very deliberate, and it's kind of funny when you were little bitty, like, how old were you? Like 9 or so, 10?
Yeah, it was probably 10 or so.
11. You were about 11 when you came. It's funny, you were doing speech stuff with him at home before we ever even had the official like going to speech therapy. You would be like, okay, Shecky, say like that, or just making him try to repeat sounds. So that was really, really cool. And I was like, oh my goodness, from the beginning you're already doing the thing. So when we took him finally to officially get speech therapy, like you already had been doing some of the stuff that exactly what the therapists were doing without like being a speech therapist. So that was really pretty cool. Yeah, he also had physical therapy as well for that low tone to help him get strong and stuff. But yeah, he's pretty strong now. He plays basketball and likes to run around and do all kinds of fun stuff with his friends.
He's so strong.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's really common too with kids who need one therapy. They tend to need another one. So if you have a communication disorder, it might be because of a little bit of that muscle weakness. And so they might need to go to occupational therapy like Shechem did. And I think that that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of, is that just how a lot of the therapies pair together, and that if you're receiving help in one area, you're probably needing help in another too. And a lot of people don't understand that. And we need to be able to help those people and understand their weaknesses and be able to lift them up and give them the resources that they need to build up their strengths and strengthen those weaknesses. Shechem, how does going to therapy make you feel? You've gone to therapy for a while. I know we had a break for a minute when we lived in a different state, but you got started up again, and you can be honest with me. How does going to therapy make you feel?
It makes me feel like
You can be honest.
good that I get help with stuff I need to get help with.
Mm-hmm.
But also a bit annoyed because I have to miss like some classwork
Yeah.
that I might have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like
You
a
like to
mix
stay on
sometimes.
task.
And sometimes it's like better than some other days.
Mm-hmm.
So it always like kind of changes.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And what kind of things are you working on right now in speech?
I'm working on a different like tinier program called Take Flight in Speech.
Mm-hmm.
And they're helping me with like some dyslexia stuff, but I don't have this dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And we're learning like different like names of sound pictures for that letter.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like working through understanding words and the meaning of language and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Take Flight program that he's doing right now, what's really awesome about it is that it goes through all of speech, starting with the most common speech sounds and words to the less common is at the very end. And so, like he said, he does not have dyslexia. We did get him tested, but there was a little bit of a disconnect with the reading and the auditory and the speech stuff. So, again, it's not exactly dyslexia, but kind of sort of falls under that umbrella a little bit. I don't want to get into like the complications of the diagnosis for that, but it's just enough help for him to get over that hurdle and to make sure that like he doesn't fall behind in his academics. So yeah. And at first he was not too excited about it, but because it was very challenging. Yeah, it made you do a lot of work. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we really need to focus on, is people who struggle with understanding language or spoken language, that they need that encouragement and they need that push, because otherwise we're not going to get better. And you might fall behind a little bit or feel like you're less capable, but we work through these things and we give people the support that they need to be able to do their best and to get better. And so that's awesome. That's so good. Okay. And how has going to therapy benefited you in school? Can you tell like what you've done in therapy? Has it helped you at all as far as you can tell?
So far it's helped me a little bit with reading. Like talking about the story, because I'm not really good at that. Like I could read it and I couldn't understand it, but like if you asked me to like tell you about it, it's harder for me.
Yeah.
But they're kind of working on that, and that's a little bit easier, but still
Good.
a little bit challenging.
That's awesome. Great. Okay. And what would you guys want to say to people who are different, people who don't have communication disorders or language processing disorders? What would you guys say to them that they can take away to understand about it?
I would say, you just have some empathy for people and some understanding and patience. A lot of times, I think when it comes to speech, people want to talk really fast and they don't have the patience sometimes for somebody who maybe speaks a little slower, or just patience in trying to understand what they're saying. Literally, the words sometimes might be more challenging for them. So that would be my biggest takeaway. And I'd also say to parents or caregivers of children who do have a speech delay or a speech issue, that don't hesitate to get them evaluated. Don't hesitate to get therapy. It is so beneficial long term, and it's much harder to improve somebody's quality of life if you wait till they're a lot older to do therapy
Yeah.
than if you just do it right away. There's so many amazing programs out there, and if you can't afford it, you say, "Oh my gosh, but therapy is so expensive." There are so many programs actually that are free, paid through our taxes, that already exist across the United States. Because we've already kind of looked into this, and maybe we can post some resources in the description. But the problem is that so many people aren't getting diagnosed, as you know. So what are the stats on that? Do you know the stats on like how many people have speech disorders and then they're like not getting it?
Yeah, it's usually about 45% of people with communication disorders actually don't receive the intervention that they need. And that is just such a large number, and we have to be able to make a difference with that. And 8% of children ages 3 to 17 who have communication disorders have also not received intervention. And we just have to be able to change that. And so I love what you have to say about that. And that is a really big initiative of mine, working through Voices of Change, being able to initiate nationwide speech screenings in the first grade, because not everyone goes to kindergarten. It would be best if we could implement it in kindergarten, but not everyone goes to kindergarten. And a lot of the times parents don't catch their children's speech disorder because that's just what they sound like, and they might think that's just a little kid talk. But getting tested is extremely important. And so through Voices of Change, I would love to be able to implement nationwide speech screenings for first graders and be able to make that difference so that we can get that percent of people who aren't receiving intervention so much lower and get people the help that they need. So that's really great that you had to say that. So thank you so much. And thank you all for sharing your story. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you would consider donating to my website linked in my Instagram and my Facebook to be able to support people with communication disorders, I'm donating to places like the American Speech and Language Association, and working on getting those speech screenings nationwide. So thank you so much.